Sort of introduced. My name is Edward Miller. I'm a migration lawyer here in Sydney. I've been helping Academy of Entrepreneurs students and obviously the Academy itself with a lot of legal questions, migration questions. I know personally Paula Mills. She's my good friend and obviously business partner. So thank you very much for attending this short event. I know that you've got a lot of questions about your future, your current studies, and what you will be able to do once you complete your study, and what changes are coming on the 1st of July. So right now it's a bit of a very busy time for myself and obviously for a lot of people who are trying to decide what they're going to do in the future, what a plan they would need to formulate for themselves in order to stay in Australia longer, or even to come to Australia if you are not currently in Australia. So and there's a lot of information right now on social media, on forums, on some migration website, on some agents website. So a lot of people are getting confused, and in order for us to clear some of your questions, I will be talking today a little bit about graduate visa, which is still available for the recent graduates from Academy of Entrepreneurs. Obviously, I will talk about what would happen after the 1st of July changes, and I will allow a lot of time on your questions and answers. So feel free to send your questions on the chat box, and then later on, once I complete my explanation about the graduate visa, I will come back to all your questions and try to answer as many as possible. Obviously, try not to put some a personal questions, because I usually can't answer the personal questions. This presentation is for general purpose only. It's not a legal advice. If you have particular questions in relation to your personal situation, feel free to reach out to Academy of Entrepreneurs. They have my contact details. Send me a quick email introducing yourself and your brief, a personal, not an issue, but personal story, and what are you planning to do. So I'll be able to come back to you all individually and explain what could be done, and whether we would need to schedule a separate face-to-face Zoom consultation to discuss your options in person. All right, so let's talk about the temporary graduate visa, which is still available for all individuals who completed their qualifications within 2 years of their studies, including the Academy of Entrepreneurs students who are completed their diplomas and completing their advanced diplomas before the 1st of July happening. Why am I saying before 1st of July? Because 1st of July, the Department of Immigration planning to introduce a lot of changes. Those changes are relating to, obviously, students, that this temporary graduate visa, which currently and previously allow the students to apply for graduate visa, will no longer be available for students from vocational educational sector, and will be available for those ones who's doing higher education, just like before the COVID. So during the COVID, the Department of Immigration introduced a lot of concessions to the students, and you're probably aware of them. Full-time working hours, as long as you comply with your course requirements, as well as possibility to apply for temporary graduate visa if you completed your diploma and advanced diploma. So this is still the case for those students who are completing their advanced diploma, before 1st of July. After 1st of July, it is expected that this concession will no longer be in place, because, as you probably realize, that the COVID is over, and the Department of Immigration moving to their laws, regulations, and visa eligibilities to pre-COVID requirements. So those short temporary measures during the COVID will be revoked on the 1st of July. But obviously we will need to wait for detailed confirmation from the Department of Immigration for those news, which are happening on the 1st of July. Okay, so what is the graduate visa for those of you who don't know? So the graduate visa is for those individuals who completed their qualifications, and now obviously before it was a university qualifications, now until 1st of July, vocational education sector, for example, the diploma and advanced diplomas are perfectly valid for the purpose of applying for this visa. As I said, this sort of requirements will be changed on the 1st of July. So what are those requirements? Obviously, the first requirement is very simple. You must be under 50 years of age in order to be eligible for the graduate visa. The second requirement, you must have and hold a substantive visa, which in most of your cases, substantive visa means holding a student visa. So most of you are on student visa, so you do meet your requirements. The next requirements is that you held you completed your course within 6 months of applying for your graduate visa. So what does that mean? So when you completed your course, not when you graduated, when you receive a letter of completion from Academy of Entrepreneurs stating that you successfully completed your diploma and advanced diploma, you have 6 months from that day to apply for graduate visa. Obviously, this is a general requirement. Okay, it's for those ones who, for example, completed their advanced diploma 6 months ago and they're running out of time. So once you complete your advanced diploma, you have 6 months to launch the graduate visa and obviously be eligible for it. Okay, since we are coming towards the 1st of July, where it's most likely all this visa will disappear for the vocational educational sector, those ones who completing before the 1st of July, not graduating, but completing all your subjects before 1st of July for advanced diploma, you must start thinking of either contacting me or anybody who would be able to prepare your graduate visa application. It's not a straightforward process as everybody think. I would suggest to engage either migration agent or a lawyer such as myself to do this visa application, because you only have one chance for it, because after the 1st of July, this visa will not be available for the vocational educational sector, only for the higher educations, and we're talking about universities. We're talking about bachelor degrees and master degrees within 2 years. Okay, the second requirement, the next requirement, it used to be that you would need to nominate an occupation from specific occupation lists in order to be eligible. Right now, up until now, those concessions are still in place. You don't need to do that. Okay, so which is very good. So if you completed your diploma and advanced diploma in business at Academy of Entrepreneurs, you don't need to select any occupations from the occupation list, which is very good. The previous requirements that you also need to have a positive skills assessment for the purpose of this visa also been removed and no longer required until again 1st of July. So this is very good news. So pretty much you would need to demonstrate that you completed the course, and the course you completed was diploma and advanced diploma, 2 years course to meet the Australian study. And obviously they meet the next requirement, which is English level. You need to have at least 6 overall in IELTS in order to be eligible for the graduate visa, or equivalent to PTE, TOEFL, or any other approved sort of English tests for Department of Immigration. I mean, the most common one, and I always talk about the IELTS. IELTS is the most common English test a lot of international students using for, but you can also use PTE or other equivalent one. Okay. Obviously, before applying for this visa, you must be enrolled into health insurance, which is not the student health insurance you might currently have now. It's called overseas visitor health insurance. Okay, and the good thing about this insurance, you don't have to pay for the entire time of your visa upfront. The overseas visitor health insurance charged you monthly fee. Okay, and you can pick at any health insurance you pretty much like. If somebody interested to know what are those health insurance available and compare the prices, I would be more than happy to provide the link for it, and you can pick and choose from it. Okay. Or obviously you would need to apply for the Australian police check, Australian federal police check, in order to prove that you're fit and proper person, that you have all the character, to apply for the visas, that you don't have any sort of a criminal records in Australia, and you've got a perfect character, put it that way. And this is the, in a nutshell, summarize the eligibility for graduate visa. So basically, be at the right age, under 50 years old, complete diploma and advanced diploma, have a letter of completion from the education provider, such as Academy of Entrepreneurs, that you completed diploma and advanced diploma, have your English test, IELTS test, let's say, with the 6 at least overall in the score, enroll into overseas visitor health insurance, apply for a federal police check, and obviously provide the letter of completion from the institution like Academy of Entrepreneurs that you did complete both of the certificates. So in terms of the course, you must complete an academic year of the study. Academic year of the study is 90 weeks of the program. And 90 weeks of the program usually consists of 2 courses, which is diploma and advanced diploma. So if you did, for example, a diploma course, which is less than a year, and then advanced diploma, which is a year, it will not count, because the total course, in order to meet the study requirement, has to be completed within 90 days. So 1 year of diploma, 1 year of advanced diploma will complete that sort of a period. So, I mean, this visa is for those ones who are already completed advanced diploma and advanced diploma, or those ones who are about to complete advanced diploma before 1st of July. Okay, so if you are the one who completing diploma before 1st of July, I would suggest to start collecting other documents, or get in touch with me, so I could have a look whether you would be eligible for it and what other documents you would need to prepare. Those ones who are already completed advanced diploma, you would need to, obviously, you have only a few months, 2 months to less than 2 months, put it that way, to start preparing the documents to apply for graduate visa before the new changes come into effect on the 1st of July. Okay, so this is the eligibility of the graduate visa. So does anybody have any questions about this right now while I'm talking about the graduate visa eligibility? Anybody? You can just speak up, or it's perfectly fine. All right. So let's move to the next topic, which a lot of people are talking right now. It's what are we expecting from the Department of Immigration on the 1st of July? Okay, the Department of Immigration has not confirmed yet, and on the Department of Immigration website, you will not see any substantive changes published, what about to happen on the 1st of July. There is a reason why it is that so. It's because the Department of Immigration doesn't want to create a bit of a panic among people, and obviously lawyers, who are right now, because there's a lot of information out there, and when the Department of Immigration introduces new changes, they always say the day when the changes would come into force, and then they physically publish those changes on the Department of Immigration website. Right now, the only changes which definitely go into effect, which been published on the Department of Immigration website, for New Zealand residents who are in Australia, that they would have a path for citizenship. Okay, any other new changes which are circling around are just the proposed changes. I would not put a lot of weight on it, but at the same time, you do need to be aware what is happening. Okay, so for the students, I believe it's fairly simple. The proposed changes for the 1st of July would be that the students will come back to pre-COVID sort of a work rights entitlements, which is 20 hours a week, not a full time, just like right now. So that's one of the changes proposed on the 1st of July. Second, obviously, all the studies will have to go from online to full-time studies. That's what's been proposed. The other changes, obviously, in terms of the eligibility for the graduate visa, that the vocational education sector will no longer be able to do that. Only graduates from the universities will be able to proceed to graduate visa. So this is one of the biggest changes, which proposed to happen on the 1st of July. The other changes, there are lots of other changes sort of proposed for other visa sectors, for example, working visas. The changes also proposed to increase the minimum salary rates for applicants for the working visa from 1st of July. And also there might be some changes with occupation lists, whether the Department of Immigration is planning to add new occupations or remove some. But as I said, all those changes are proposed changes, means we will not only know that they would be definitely come into law on the 1st of July, no earlier than that. The only few news we know that they would definitely be sort of a proposed. These are that the graduate visa will not be available for the vocational education sector from 1st of July. So that's most important. The work rights conditions for the students will come back to part-time, which is 20 hours a week. And the online sessions, online studies will no longer be sort of acceptable from 1st of July. Everyone will go full-time and face-to-face sort of a class-based training. But it is always better to check your eligibility for any sort of a visa criteria or any sort of a, in order to get an accurate advice towards the future when the changes are introduced. So I would say after 1st of July. And me and obviously Academy of Entrepreneurs team will hold another seminar after the 1st of July to confirm what are those changes being introduced and came into law, and how those changes will particularly impact on Academy of Entrepreneurs students or any sort of individuals who would interested to know what would be the next steps in their sort of staying in Australia, either moving forward to a new visa or moving forward to permanent visas, temporary visas, and so on. So for the time being, I would not advise to read too much into rumors and too many forums and some articles on Google about what's going to happen. The simple answer is we all need to wait. Everybody will get the same news at the same time on the 1st of July. But coming back to the graduate visa, I would say for certain, if those ones who completed their advanced diploma or about to complete their advanced diploma, I would strongly recommend not to wait until 1st of July and start getting their paperwork in order to apply for the graduate visa before the new changes come. Okay, it's very important. Those ones of you who graduating or completing their advanced diploma after the 1st of July, it is most likely that the graduate visa will not be an option. So it means you would need to find an alternative ways to either apply for different visa in order to stay in Australia, either temporary or permanently. The other also visa which was going on around from during the COVID, the so-called 407 COVID visa, will also be abolished on the 1st of July. For the same reason, the COVID is over, and this visa was introduced for the purpose of students to help them during the lockdown and obviously help them with work during the COVID situation. But now, obviously, from 1st of July, this visa will be no longer available. But as I said, all this confirmation of all these new changes we will need to see on 1st of July. Okay. So in terms of the other questions I've got from a lot of clients and students. So what do I do after 1st of July if I cannot apply for the graduate visa? What can I do? Shall I study more? Shall I move to the different visa? Shall I go home? A lot of people come into this sort of questions, and sadly they sometimes think about it at the very last minute when the current visa expires, which is not very wise. So if you do still have an Australian visa which is valid until, let's say, 6 months, you would need to start thinking of the next step and planning your sort of a future stay in Australia as early as possible, because it is very hard to come up with a strategic plan for your migration, or either temporary migration or permanent migration, if you are coming to me and saying that your visa is expiring in, I don't know, in a 1 week or a few days. It's virtually impossible. So the earlier you start planning, the better it is. So, I mean, again, back to the question, what do I do after the 1st of July? So obviously you might have several options. I mean, every single person has its own circumstances, background, experience, work experience, qualifications they obtain back home. And based on that sort of a background, I would be able to prepare a detailed sort of a strategic plan. What would be your options towards the future? And obviously, emphasizing that the options we need to find for you are obviously cost effective for you, fast, as relevantly fast as possible, and obviously something you can work towards that. So a lot of graduates from Academy of Entrepreneurs are thinking of applying to, let's say, after their studies, if not graduate visa, but so-called training visa. So the training visa, it's one of the options for a lot of graduates, and it's designed for the purpose of obtaining relevant work experiences for 2 years in Australia with their employer, either for the purpose of getting a work experience in eligible qualification, or for the purpose of obtaining some sort of a registration or license in Australia. So that is one of the most popular sort of visas right now for just the fresh graduates, because in order for a lot of students to apply for, maybe you've heard, some sort of a sponsorship visa or so-called 482 working visa, you might need to have qualification and at least 2 years work experience in that qualification. A lot of overseas graduates, they simply don't have enough work experience in order to comply with this visa. So the training visa would be the next step. Obviously, training visa, just like a sponsorship working visa 482, requires you to have already an employer who would be happy to train you in-house, obviously, at workplace. So it's a workplace training for at least 2 years. After the 2 years, you might have a possibilities to apply for all other sort of visas, including working visas, skilled visas, and so on. And you would have a relevant 2 years work experience. But as I said, training visas, just like sponsorship working visas, require you to have an employer who would be happy to sort of train you for the next 2 years, for maximum 2 years of the training visa duration. I mean, that would be a starting point. What usually the overseas graduates, either from universities or from vocational education sector, looking at when they complete their studies. I mean, I have done quite a lot of training visas for various businesses, and all the applicants had no problem obtaining the training visa and gain a practical training for at least 2 years to add on their CV, or obviously gain those valuable 2 years work experience for the purpose of transitioning to the other visas in Australia. Okay. Is there any question to what I've just said? Don't be shy. Feel free to text them on the chat. Let me just check what it's written here. Any questions in regards to the graduate visa. Is there any of you guys completed Academy of Entrepreneurs in the last 6 months or about to complete advanced diploma before 1st of July? Is anybody else? And is anybody? Just type yes or no in the box so I kind of know who would be potentially eligible. Okay. Lucia said no. When are you completing your advanced diploma, Lucia? You can talk here on the microphone. Yeah, 2004. Yeah. Vincent, no. Yeah. Okay. Is anybody else completing before 1st of July? Yeah, 2024. Yeah. Yeah, I can see. Okay. Majority of you are not completing. You've got still time to study at the Academy of Entrepreneurs. Well, unfortunately, and I hate to give bad news to my clients and potential clients and students, the graduate visa might not be available for you guys after the 1st of July. Because the requirements are you must complete diploma and advanced diploma within 6 months and obviously apply for the graduate visa. But because they're planning to change these requirements on the 1st of July, you might need to start thinking what would be your next step towards sort of staying in Australia, either on temporary or permanent resident visa. And obviously, I would be more than happy to sort of review your individual situation and sort of come up with a different visa strategies. But also, don't just put all your hopes down. Let's wait until 1st of July to see what exactly it's gonna happen, because there's a lot of news going on right now. There's a lot of sort of rumors and proposals, even from the parliamentary website. There is a lot of proposals out there, and but until 1st of July, these are only the proposals. This is not the law. So hopefully they will keep the concessions for the students towards the graduate visa on the 1st of July. Very highly unlikely, but you know, since there is no definite yes or no right now until the 1st of July, then obviously we will have to wait until it's going to be confirmed. Okay. How many of you right now working full-time? Can anybody text in the box? Is some of you working full-time right now, or you have your savings for the purpose of living in Australia? Yeah. Okay. Lucia says yes, that's good. Casual. Yeah, casual is fine, Vincent. Yeah, that's fine. Well, the good thing about that you're completing a diploma in business, an advanced diploma, obviously, in business, which is in Academy of Entrepreneurs, you would be potentially be able to gain to get the training visa from your employer. But obviously, you would need to speak with the employer to see if employer is actually happy to do it for you. Okay, I will be more than happy to speak with you individually later on when if you get a confirmation from the employer saying that they would be happy to offer you a training visa and train you at the workplace, and I will be happy to assess your eligibility and obviously employer eligibility for it. So yeah, the training visa could be one of the of those steps. Otherwise, you either need to continue to study something, or we can have a look at what other possible options you would have to remain in Australia, either temporary or permanently. Usually when I speak with the clients and I sort of try to understand their situation and prepare detailed sort of advice on what could be done, I would expect you guys to prepare a very good detailed CV. I mean, it doesn't have to be super good because you're not sending it for the purpose of getting an employment. You send it to me, but it has to be very descriptive. All your qualifications from home, all your work experience from home, all your qualifications in Australia, all your experience, work experience in Australia. That way, I will be able to have a look, what have you done in your entire sort of a life overall until this point, and then I will be able to advise you accurately what sort of a visas you could potentially look at, what sort of a requirements you would need to satisfy for those visas, and what sort of a documents you would need to prepare as well. So you will have obviously enough time to decide what you're planning to do. Okay. Ali texting here that I'm very new student. I'm a new student visa. I got visa in 13th of May. Can I work full time right until July? The answer is yes. Right now, all the international students who got their student visa approved and in Australia are able to work full time as long as they passing the course, as long as they're completing all their assessments and compliant with the course requirements. Okay, so it's very important. It's not like you can work full time, but you don't need to study. That is not what is intended. If you're planning to work full time, you still have to meet your course requirements. And if you don't meet your course requirements while you're working full time, you're in breach of your student visa conditions and could be in trouble with the Department of Immigration. So the answer is yes, you can until 1st of July, until all the changes are confirmed, but make sure that you're compliant with your course requirement at the Academy of Entrepreneurs. Yeah. Any other questions so far in regards to these new changes, transitions, what's next, graduate visa? I mean, I can see that the graduate visa for most of you would not be sort of suitable until we get the confirmation on 1st of July. If you would like to know any other sort of visas, I would be more than happy to explain while we have time. Feel free to text directly. This sort of a seminar is free for you. There is no charge for it. So if you've got any questions, if you heard something, if you've got some other visa ideas, I would be more than happy to explain.
Hey, Edward, can I ask about, thank you for that information, by the way.
That's okay.
Can I ask about if you start your own company here?
Yes.
What would the options look like for immigration that way? Like minimum years or what is that?
Well, there is so-called entrepreneurship visa available there. Okay. So what it is basically it's the visa for entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurs, I mean, there is no specific requirement what sort of entrepreneurship what sort of entrepreneurship activities required. There are a few things which is not required. I mean, we're talking about you cannot open as a startup business as a labor hire. You cannot open some sort of a real estate sort of a type of a business. All other sort of types of businesses are perfectly valid for the purpose of entrepreneurship. I mean, each state has its own sort of a little requirements for the entrepreneur visa, and each state has its own sort of a set of little rules and regulations, where you obviously need to comply. But in a way, what is the entrepreneurship visa? It's for those individuals who are interested to open their own business, already started, your own entrepreneurship business, and would like to benefit from this visa, which initially granted temporary, and then if you still continue to run the business, you will be successful with the permanent resident visa. I mean, the initial step of the entrepreneurship visa, you would need to prepare a very good business plan. And the business plan would have to obviously have two parts. One part, it's all about your business, plus SWOT analysis, information about the business, what services or products you would be selling, all the initial information of the business. And the last part of the business plan has to be a projective figures how much you intended to spend and obviously earn in the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years. Okay, those are just the prospective figures, but you need to have it very well drafted, very well formed business plan. This sort of entrepreneurship visa is by invitation. So once you sort of prepare this entrepreneurship business plan of intended or already business you're currently operating, I would suggest to have a look at the requirements of the entrepreneurship visa. So there are two sets of requirements for it. One belongs to the business, obviously the business plan. What are you planning to do? Where you're planning to open your business, either it's in this New South Wales state or elsewhere. The second part of it belongs to you. This is you would need to answer obviously and provide information about yourself as the prospective business owner and operator, and you would need to score at least 65 points in it. So the point system is awarded obviously for your age, for your entrepreneurial ability, business experience, obviously language requirements. It's not as difficult language requirement as for the skill visa, let's say, but still you need to provide that you do have functional English, and majority it's about your business experience and how you see yourself operating such business in the future, whether you would be successful or not. And you obviously need to provide information about your experience in the similar sort of industry to demonstrate the Department of Immigration very simple things. If we are to grant you this business entrepreneurship visa, we'll like your business. Show us that you would be able to continue to run the business, because the last thing we want is to approve the visa to a person who has no idea about the business, who never ran the business before, who doesn't even know about his products or services he's offering to the customers. So this is sort of visa. It's, as I said, by invitation. So you would need to be invited by the Department of Immigration to be successful for it. So obviously beforehand, you would need to prepare all your personal documentation in support of your skills, qualifications, and business experience in the area you're planning to operate the business. That's the first part. The second part, you would need to prepare all potential business documents, information, including business plan. What is your business all about? Where you're planning to operate? Who are your customers? Are you selling products? Are you selling services? How this product and service will benefit, let's say, New South Wales state, if you are to operate your business in New South Wales. If you're planning to operate some other states, obviously we need to have a look at their requirements as well. But in a shell, they would also ask the same thing: how this business will benefit. Will your business generate the profit? Is your business plan a very innovative? Is your business is innovative? Because the last thing you want is to put forward a business plan that you open in another hairdressing salon. The state might turn around and say, you know what, we don't need another hairdressing salons in New South Wales because there are so many. So you have to also think about a very creative new idea, which might be on the market. You might have competitors, but it's also a brand new and will be potentially with a view to the profit. Okay, so it's not just something you could come up with and say, hey, this is what I'm planning to do, and please grant me visa. It's not that simple. Obviously, your business would have to have some sort of an innovative edge among your competition. You must show that you will do something different than anybody else, or your business in the industry which sort of doesn't exist in Australia. It exists overseas. It exists in your country. It exists in, I don't know, Europe or anywhere else. But in Australia, there is nothing like that exists. That would give you a much bigger edge for the Department of Immigration to come back and say, yes, we're interested. That sounds like a good idea, So it's not just from the legal perspective, what you need to do. It's from the government perspective. Why, me as a government, shall I grant you a visa for at least 5 years and then option to apply for permanent residence for this type of business? Is your business is so good to do that? Is your business is so interesting to do that? How this business will benefit us, So that's very simple,
Okay. Are they approving visas in areas of high demand, like caretaking or that kind of a thing as well? Is that kind of taken into consideration? the
Well, I
demand?
mean, it's all depends on what exactly are you planning to do. I mean, what are your customers? Who would be your clients or customers? What sort of products or services you presenting? Because there is no particular uh, set of rules where it says, okay, we give preferences to this business rather than that business. It doesn't exist like that. For the purpose of entrepreneurship visa, there is no limitations like that. It depends on the state and you to prove that your business is an innovative business, is worthy of operating in this particular sector, in this particular state, and obviously your business will be profitable. Not right now, but it will be. So it's up to you to determine that. Obviously, you would need to create a very good sort of explanation about the business, a very good business plan. Obviously, I would need to have a look at your business plan and see whether it will comply with the business law requirements. Second, whether the Department of Immigration is likely to accept this business. Okay. So but obviously the first point for you even to think about this sort of a visa is to create a good business plan. Maybe email it across to me. I will have a look at it. Then we can have a brief discussion about what's the business all about and how you can planning to make it come true. And then we'll determine whether it's worthy for us to pursue this route. Yeah. No problem.
Thank you.
That's okay. That's okay. All right. The other question is Nika asking, how does work rights affect us if we have business PTY and our visa ends? Can we run it from overseas without work rights in Australia? Well, that's a very good question. I mean, if you set up a proprietary limit in Australia, as you're probably aware that the company, it's another person. Okay, and the person is registered for tax purposes. So you are the director of the company, but the company is registered in Australia, has its own ABN, has its own ACN number and tax file number. So company in Australia can potentially operate without you being present as a director, as long as you are able to manage your business from overseas while the company is here. Okay, obviously managing the business means as a director you have strict responsibilities that the company pays on its debts, your liabilities, your bills, put it that way, that the company is not going under liquidations or anything like that, that the company pays all the required taxes at the end of financial year. The director there is no strict requirements where the director currently is, either is overseas or in Australia. So I had a few companies which been operating by also students and overseas individuals, and they moved permanently overseas. They set up the managers here. They've got the staff working in Australia, and they're successfully operating the company while not being in Australia. So that's perfectly fine. Yeah. Any other questions? For any other visas, working visas, training visas, entrepreneurship visas? Obviously, entrepreneurship visas is very it's a complex sort of a visa. It's very hard to explain it just on one Zoom meeting, and it's very hard to give advice based on very limited information out there. You know, obviously, the first point I would always ask any person who inquiring about the entrepreneurship visa: send me your business plan. It doesn't have to be perfect, but send me your business plan so I can at least get an idea what's the business all about. What are you planning to do? How are you planning to do? What resources do you have? Do you have any investors? Do you have any registrations, licenses? What do you need to do in order to make this business more appealing for the purpose of state nomination, and what sort of a chances you would have for the good invitation? You know. Last few minutes questions, if anybody have any. I mean, we're obviously going to revisit this conversation again. I would say after the 1st of July, when all the changes are introduced, and hopefully we'll do a face-to-face session in Sydney by that time, which would be very interesting finally to see people, you know, not just on the screen. But yeah, I mean, we're going to have another session after all the news introduced. But meanwhile, if you've got any questions or if you're interested to know particular visa and start preparing for it, feel free to send me an email either with your CV or with your business plan, and I will get back to you with the original consultation or special consultation just for you, and we'll discuss step by step what you could potentially do in your situation. Well, the other questions I got, how does the regional visa works? I mean, there are so many, quite a few regional visas out there. I mean, it would take me hours to explain each of them, but in a nutshell, the regional visa, that's how it is. Basically, you have to relocate to the regional Australia. But regional Australia, what is regional Australia? The Department of Immigration explains what are the regional Australia by postcodes. So there is a specific sort of a sheet exists which specifies the postcode which are allocated for regional Australia. Some of the capital cities are also regional Australia, unfortunately not Sydney. As an example, for Western Australia, considered to be regional, the entire area. New South Wales considered to be regional by specific postcodes, like, for example, Newcastle area, Bega, Orange, those kind of areas considered to be regional. So every state has allocated a postcode where if you are have a letter of offer from the employer and you don't mind to relocate for that area, you would be potentially able to apply for the regional area. It also depends on the visa, I must warn you, okay? Some of the regional visa has different sort of requirements and stuff like that. But all of them, that is the reason why the regional visa called regional. You must be in regional Australia based on those postcodes, either have a letter of offer or willing to relocate there. And if the regional visa would be approved, which is a permanent resident visa, you will have to stay a certain amount of time in the regional area. So this is the requirement, okay? But if you're considering regional area, feel free to get in touch with me and I will have a look at your CV, obviously, and why are you trying to sort of look at the regional area? And then we can formulate detailed plan on what would be the most suitable for you individually, okay? Last few minutes of questions before we end it for tonight. Anyone else? Okay, there was a previous question. With our own PTY Ltd company, will the changes affect how many hours I can work? Yes, it will, because work would be always divided between full-time and part-time. And students can only be working either for themselves or for anybody else for only 20 hours a week when the changes will come on the 1st of July, including your own company, yes. Okay. I will add my email address to the chat box for anybody who would like to reach out with their personal questions about their situation, and maybe we could organize a personal Zoom consultation. But when you reach out to me, please attach your also CV and the questions you would like to raise, and I will do my best to answer all of them. So I'll put my email in the chat box for anybody to inquire. And yeah, feel free to contact me. our website is at the moment is down, just to let you know, because we are updating the website for all the new changes, and but all our emails working, so that's not a problem. So the website should be ready within a couple of weeks, you know, with the new updates and all the regulations. But feel free to reach out to my direct email, and I will be more than happy to advise and assist you all. Well, okay, if no one else have any questions, we're gonna end the session. Madison, Ali, Luis, Ellen, Jennifer, Lucia, Vincent, Abdullah, Nika, Jerry. Questions? No? And Teresa, of course? No? All good? All right. Well, thank you so much for having me here. And I hope I gave you some sort of advice in regards to what we can do, and, you know, what upcoming changes are coming. And obviously, feel free to reach out to me via email. And if you've got any particular questions, AE has all my details, all my credentials, and they will be able to pass also your messages across to me. All right. Well, you have a lovely evening, all of you. And yeah, we'll be speaking with you, some of you, very soon, and we're gonna have another session very soon. Okay. Thank you very much.